Hello everybody, today we are in the Avenues International stand at the World Poultry Congress in Paris. My name is Camila Alfaro, I am from the editorial staff of the magazine. Here next to me is Dr. Rick Van Emous from
Hello.
Wageningen University in the Netherlands. Dr. Van Emous, welcome and thank you for accepting our invitation.
No problem. It's an honor to be here, and thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here. Well, welcome again to this space that is designed for allowing people to know more about what is happening currently in the industry. And for the people that probably doesn't know so much information about Dr. Van Emous, I will tell you that he is a senior researcher in animal nutrition at Wageningen Livestock Research in the Netherlands. He also has long experience working with layers and with broiler breeders. And here, his doctorate from Wageningen University at 2015, focusing on the feeding behavior and practices for modern broiler breeders. Additionally, Dr. Van Emous is one of the authors of the Novus book that will be launched during this Congress, and the book is called Breeder Management and Nutrition Moving Forward to the Industry. Dr. Van Emous, he wrote a chapter that is called The Effects of Breeder Feed Restriction on the Behavior, Welfare, Reproduction, and Animal Health. This is why we are with him today, and we are going to make some questions about his chapter. Then, Dr. Van Emous, my first question is, could you please summarize what the readers will find in your chapter?
Okay, summarize. Yeah, it's quite a chapter. It's also quite a topic, welfare. In Northwest Europe, in particular also in the Netherlands, welfare is very important, And if you're well known, everybody, we restrict these breeders, particularly during the pullet phase, quite severe, you can say, because otherwise they grow that big, that they have really issues with health and production and mortality. You see sometimes quite high mortality if they grow up because they have the characteristics of a broiler inside. So you must restrict them, and of course that gives some issues if you look to these breeders and also in the literature. And there are a couple of issues, really on welfare, and particularly during the rearing period. We restrict them. Yeah, what is it? In the literature they say 70%. I think it's a little bit lesser, but still we restrict them quite hard so that they follow a certain body weight growth profile, that they're healthy when they start laying. But what you'll see is that you have issues with physiological issues. You can see that parameters. You have an increased corticosterol, what's a stress hormone. You have a higher HL ratio, and it's also connected to stress. But what you also see directly if you're in houses, actually last week I was in a pullet house and you see them packing to empty pens. There's no feed at all, but they're still packing, because we feed them, yeah, a little amount of feed, So feed clean-up time is 30 minutes. So the rest of the day, 7.5 hours. What they do, scratching, etc., and they do packing a lot to objects. We call it stereotypic object packing. You see that quite a lot, and particularly to empty pans and sometimes empty drinking nipples to the walls. And yeah, is that bad? Yeah, a little bit. And what is very specific is also for breeders is that they you don't see that in layers or broilers, tail pecking or licking. And it's stereotypic, and stereotypic is negative. It's negative. And yeah, that's really the issue. And I describe that kind of issues in my chapter. The state of the art, what we know about it, what's the effects of feed restriction, but also possibilities to diminish the issues, but it's not so easy. And I tried some novel. Definitely, we must go to some novel management tools, I think. But so it's an interesting topic, to be honest. But I don't have a clear answer to solve it.
Okay. And Dr. Van Emous, what are the most common feed restriction programs and how are they currently applied in European countries?
Yeah, in Europe, yeah, you feed them to the recommended body weight targets of the breeder. That's what you do. And the breeder companies give you a target body weight at every week, and that's what you do. You give them that amount of feed that they grow to that body weight target, and that's what you do. You can do that. Of course, you do that by feed them not enough, of not enough, a less amount of feed, because you don't want that they grow like broilers. And you can do that just simple, give them less feed, and we do that, of course. But you also can dilute the diet, for example. If you have normally 2,800 kilocal per kilogram, you can dilute it a bit, and that helps a little bit. But that's the feeding program. You you had a certain body weight growth profile, and you follow that by giving them that less amount of feed, that they don't grow faster. That's feed restriction. Yeah.
Yes. And now, Dr. Rick, do you think that these restriction programs could be different in other countries, such as United States or Brazil, that are considered one of the main chicken and eggs producers around the world?
Yeah, definitely they do that as well. They have more or less the same breeds. If you look at the Ross, we here in Europe we have the 308, but in Latin America they have the 708. It's even it's a broiler, so also the parent stock grow faster than the 308 what we have here. So they do the same. They give them enough money that they survive and follow that certain body weight uh, profile that they around 20 weeks around 2.2 to 2.3 kilogram. So it's the same. The big difference between the countries or between Europe and Latin and North America is that it's not allowed in our country, in European Union, to feed them skip a day. And you know what skip a day? Yeah, you give them double the amount of feed today, and the next day you give them zero or only some scratch feed, and some water, and that's it. It's not allowed anymore here, so that's really a difference here between the two countries or the two regions in the world. And to be honest, um, everyday feeding, and you see that also in America coming up as becoming by research. You see them. People are doing that because if you feed them if you feed them skip a day, for example, you have it's a constant cycles of mobilizing nutrients and the day after remobilizing, of course, because they don't have to feed, so they want to survive, so they remobilize nutrients, and the day after they mobilize again, and of course that's not a 100% efficient system. So at the end of the day, and research proved it and found already in 2007 is that found by the Beer and Kuhn that it costs roughly 10% more feed if you have a feeding program. A feeding program like skip a day, skip another day, then you have 2 days of feed, and then you skip another day. You have 4 free programs or 5 2 programs, and that's really different in between the regions it's allowed. It's not allowed in the European to use these feeding programs. It's a welfare issue as well, of course,
Yes.
but it's also a performance issue. What I said, if you feed them skip a day, it costs you 10% more feed with the
Yes.
feed prices now. So that's really a difference between the two regions. Yeah.
And from your book chapter, what will be the most critical effect of the feed restriction in each one of the points you discussed?
The
Then
welfare.
on the behavior,
Yeah.
welfare,
Behavior welfare.
reproduction, health.
Yeah. Because if you look at production, we restrict them and then they produce well. So it's not really an issue. Health, we restrict them. If you don't restrict them, you have, I don't know, 20-30% mortality at 20 weeks of age, because they're dead. They grow that big, And yeah, behavior, that's really the issue. What I said, stereotypic packing. You see that also in physiological parameters like corticosterone and HL ratio, etc. Behavior, that's really the key. And therefore, it's also quite a topic in the Netherlands and Northwest Europe. Because sometimes I said we have 3 important subjects in Northwest Europe, in the Netherlands: welfare, welfare, and welfare. It's all about welfare. So it's really a problem. If you use slow growers, yeah, you don't have that issue, but that's another.
And now, Dr. Rick, do you think that the feed restriction could be different between broiler breeders and layer breeders? Because we know that they are raised with different purposes, but the effects could be different or not.
Yeah, for layers, layers, you don't have to, you don't restrict them, because it's in layers. It's the opposite around. That it is particular. If you go to peak production, it's the major challenge is to feed them enough, because normally they have an ad lib feed, you know, in the pullet phase and the layer phase. So it's really different, you know. In the past you have combined birds, you know. You have the layers and the brothers. They you can use them for meat, but now it's really separated. You have the broilers, you have the layers. It's totally different. The management is so different, you know. And for the breeders, the challenge is to keep them that body weight as low as possible, to follow that certain line, and for the layers is to feed them enough to produce enough, you know, in particular to prevent them, in particular in the peak production, to prevent them that they go into the negative energy balance. It's totally different. They're both birds, and both they show the same behavior as the ancestors. You know, they do dust
Yes.
bathing, both they do feather maintenance like preening. They mate, you know, if necessary, but totally different. Yeah.
Okay, and what did you recommend to ameliorate or reduce the effects of the feed restriction in broiler breeders? Do you have any recommendations
Ooh, to prevent
in the
it.
management, in the to
Yeah,
improve the feed restriction, to give more feed or something like that?
yeah. I think the issue is to keep them busy. And what I said, if you look to a pullet house, clean up time of the feed is really 20, 30 minutes, you know. And the rest of the day, they have a day off, you know. And what are they doing then? So I believe really to feed them more often a day. What Martin Zutter was doing, for example, with his feeding, precision, precision feeding system, you know. And to feed them, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a day, you know. I think it's much better, you know, to keep them busy during the day, or use or floor feeding, for example. I like that system, you know, with a spin feeder, and you spread that feed around, pellets, of course. I like that as well, because then these birds, you focus them on the litter, and not on the other birds, you know. If you focus them on the litter, I think it can it definitely works on preventing packing to each other, and but yeah, to be honest, try to combine diluted diet in combination with spin feeders. The solution is in feed them. I think personally, feed them more often a day. Yeah, to keep them busy.
And we are almost finishing, but what else can we find in your book chapter?
What you can find there.
Yes,
Yeah, state of the art knowledge,
like
of
another
course, but
overview.
yeah, I already started in the beginning, but yeah, really, what and was also for me, it was really interesting to do this review. You know, you always think I know the literature, I know it all, you know, I know what's going on and what people have done, but if you work on a review paper like the chapter is, you know, then you must rethink stuff, you know. I see pacing behavior in advance, for example, before feeding time. And sometimes it's mentioned in the literature that's bad. But my girlfriend and I, we have a cat, you know. When I walk to the closet, definitely that cat knows the feed is coming. So that cat is becoming nervous, you know. And you see that in the house as well, you know. And water restriction, I think water restriction, that's a good one. That's really a good one from the last year, what I learned, you know, that water restriction, we must get off water restriction. We do
Okay.
that still a lot in the Netherlands as well, in Europe. So you feed them half an hour of feed, you give them half an hour of feed is gone, and then 2.5, 3 hours, the water is gone. But then it costs 20, and you need 21 hours for the water is coming again. So I believe in that you can give them freely access during the whole day, during day length of 8 hours, give them to access to water. But I think that's really helped them stress prevention. And if you can take that away, that can really help on the health as well. That was also one of the issues I learned writing this book, so that was good.
Finally, Dr. Rick, what is coming in the research about this topic?
Sorry, what is?
What is coming in the research about this topic?
In research, haha. Yeah, actually, I'm working now on water restriction here. Yeah, in the Netherlands, it's a topic now, and it's also some legislation is coming on that these birds need free access to water. So, and that also helps me rethinking this issue. I'm now focusing this on get rid of water restriction, and yeah, And I work with slow growers, but to be honest, that's not the solution because it's not really broad sustainable. If you have slow growers, they need more feed. They need more feed from Brazil, you know. So yeah, so that's not sustainable
Okay.
because instead of a feed conversion ratio of 1.6, feed conversion ratio of the slow growers is 2.0 or more, you know. So it's not a solution for the world.
Okay, Dr. Emous, thank you for your time.
No problem. It's my pleasure.
For me too, and thank you for our people that is watching this video.